Hello everyone, and welcome to this latest video discussion as part of the RICS Tech Partner Programme. My name is Andrew Knight and I've been with RICS for nearly 13 years. I currently sit in our Thought Leadership and Analytics unit, and my role is to look at the effect of data and technology right across the built and natural environment. And with over 110,000 members working worldwide, right across that property life cycle, from land through planning and development, construction, valuation, brokerage, building operations, building surveying, asset management. It's a very broad canvas upon which data and technology is having a very profound effect. And indeed, our members also work across all the major asset types, whether that's land itself, commercial, residential, alternative assets and infrastructure. So once again, a very, very wide area of practice that our members are involved in. And today, I'm really happy to have Robert and Tamás join us from Access4you. So before we get into the technology and what you're doing, it'd be great to have perhaps just a brief introduction from both of you. So perhaps starting with you, Robert, what your backstory is, just a brief introduction.
Oh, thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Róbert Kreschka. I'm the head of product at the Access4you. That means I'm responsible for all the technical issues and all the development of the product, of the trademark. So that's my job. I used to be an interior designer for 20 years, so I came from that side. I came from the designer side, and now I just joined the staff about 3 years ago.
Thank you. And Tamás.
And hello, Andrew. Thank you very much, and warm greetings to all RICS members watching this video. I'm Tamás Méri, co-founder of Access4you, with one of my best friend Balázs, who is our founder in the company. I'm a business fan for over 30 years with economic, legal, and I have a master of science in real estate. So I'm coming also from your profession, which helped me a lot to understand this global need here and to be able to answer that. So I'm happy to be part of this very interesting story, and I'm happy to share it now this with you.
Thanks, Tamás. And staying with you, could you introduce Access4you and effectively what does it do?
Actually, I would say that Access4you International is a social impact Proptech company with a focus on accessibility of the built environment. Based on our standardized and digitized assessment, we provide reliable and detailed data on the location's accessibility to people with special mobility, visual, hearing, or cognitive needs for free. But our certification scheme helps not only people with special access needs, but also supports property owners and companies to gain insights into their building's accessibility, which helps to reach their business goals. This whole concept was, as I mentioned, in the head of my best friend Balázs, who is a wheelchair user for over 15 years and who wanted to remain a big traveler as he was before. We launched our mission in 2019 in Hungary, but today we are already present in many other countries in Europe or even in India, mainly through our permanently growing international network of accredited partners.
And Tamás, in some respects, this feels like almost a silly question to ask, but why is this necessary? Why is there a gap here in terms of the ability of property owners to assess their property in this way?
Yeah, yes, there's the point. You should know that roughly 15% of an average population, which means about 1.3 billion people on Earth, live with some form of disability. Part of them is clear and visible for us, like wheelchair users or blind persons, but another part remains hidden, like people with hearing impairments or people with autism. But this is just one reason why we don't feel this proportion in our everyday life. Since our built environment is not completely barrier-free for them, they are very often afraid to leave their well-known surroundings to discover new places. Reliable and detailed accessibility information helps people with disabilities and their families to plan ahead how to get to an unfamiliar location, and by that to live a more confident life. I think it's a natural need from their side to be completely and integrated part of the society, but it is a moral obligation to answer this desire with accessible places, or at least with relevant information.
Yes, thanks. No, carry on, Tamás.
But everyone benefits from accessibility. If you consider like the elderly with limited mobility, or parents with baby strollers, or persons with temporary disabilities due to an accident or surgery. So basically, the stakeholder groups of our service is much larger than just that this 15%. And what I also have to mention that on the other side, certified accessibility information helps companies as building owners or operators in many ways. Like it brings measurable data into the social chapter of ESG strategies. Also means that being more available and inclusive means more customers, more tenants, but it elevates brands with real social impact. And it can also address labor shortages and improve employee retention.
No, I mean a very compelling set of values there, and you've measured, both of you have measured a couple of times mentioned a couple of times the issue of data here. So moving to you, Robert, how do you produce this data that then supports this very measurable part of the ESG metrics?
Yeah, during an on-site audit, we use a special own-developed software, and these data we can collect. These can be photographs, measurements, or any other statements or information. Just the feature of each built environment. In this self-developed software, we use separate questionnaires for each building service. We created these questionnaires, and so we look at different aspects for an office building or a shopping mall or a museum. And in this questionnaire, we can look at more than 1,000 aspects. But essentially, the field survey method is the data collected can be grouped into 6 main topics. And these topics are the external environment, getting in, the internal circulation, the information and communication systems, and the sanitary blocks, and also the we collect data about the assistant dog features. And these items are assessed for each buildings, but in addition to this, we add series of questions by type of service. For example, in the case of a theater, we just assess the ticket office, the cloakroom, auditorium, and so on. So these are the main data we collect. If you let me, I share my screen and show you
Sure.
the home developed software we use. So here it is. You can see, for example, that's an office building questionnaire. Here you can see the 6 topics, the main topics. And let me show you the entrance door and how it works. So we can collect pictures, we can add the prefabricated questions, we can add answers, we can add measurements. So all the data we can collect according to a building, and that data we use for further classification.
And indeed, you know, how do you use the data? Because obviously the collection is an incredibly comprehensive and important part, but how do you then turn that data into information, you know, into actionable information?
Yeah, we use it, well, there are 3 main uses for these data. First, we use it to qualify the building, because according to the compliance of the collected data, the client receives development proposals to improve the accessibility of the building. We give the client improvement suggestions for all the group of stakeholders. So different suggestions for visual users, different suggestions for deaf people, blind people, and so on. And on the other hand, these data will be given to our users on our website, and the users can decide whether the site is usable for them or not. And thirdly, we use these data, the same data, in our scoring system. So based on the answers and the answered values, the building is given a score that indicates the degree of accessibility.
And in terms of that kind of evaluation qualification, do you have sort of an absolute sort of binary yes or no, it's accessible, or are there grades and various dimensions to how well a building is effectively qualifying or accredited?
The qualification system contains minimum requirements for each stakeholder group and for each building type of service. So these requirements are different according to this. If a site meets these minimum requirements, that means it is accessible to that stakeholder group. And the more stakeholder group for whom the building is accessible, the higher the certification grade is. And the client also receive an additional assessment for all the non-minimum requirements aspects. So as I told you, we assess hundreds of aspects and hundreds of points and hundreds of measurements. So let me share my screen again, and
yeah, sure.
and I will show you. So this is an evaluation table. So that's how you see what a client gets. After our assessment. So here you can see every parameter, for example, for a ramp, and if it complies, we give a green mark, or if it doesn't comply, we give a yellow or a red mark. According, if it's a minimum requirement, then we give a red mark. If it's a non-minimum requirement, then we give only a yellow mark. So this is an evaluation table where hundreds of points will be assessed and will be evaluated for the client.
So Robert, you've obviously talked about the various dimensions of data that you're able to collect through this process. How do you then turn that into an evaluation, a qualification, and an accreditation system? Is it multi-level? Tell me how that works, if you would.
Yes, it is. We have minimum requirements for each building type and for each stakeholder group. And these requirements are different according to the building segment. So if a site meets the minimum requirements, it is accessible to that stakeholder group. And the more stakeholder group for whom the building is accessible, the higher the certification grade is. And the client also receive an additional assessment of the non-minimum requirements as well. So we give them an indication table of the compliance of each assessed aspect with the relevant stakeholder group. And as I mentioned before, we also have a scoring system that is independent of the certification, but provides and shows a parallel assessment to it. And this score is a raw data that the client can use to determine the future KPIs of the development, or even in the ESG reports as well. So that's how we evaluate, and that's how the data can be used further.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, moving to you, Tamás. I mean, what you know, as the journey of Access4you has progressed, what's been the kind of feedback? What are you hearing from the market about their receptiveness to this kind of concept?
Once we started to explain to building owners how information helps to make the life of disabled people easier and safer, generally they were very open to join our mission. But as we see, final decisions are usually made after understanding all the benefits, increasing value of the property, as I mentioned before. It was an interesting feedback for us from the market almost at the beginning. The developers decided targeting a good result in Access4you evaluation, but they wanted to be sure to reach that. And this generated a new service, Access4you Design, where we are making our assessment on the plans and consulting the developers what needs to be changed or added to reach a higher level of accessibility. But the best proof of our concept is the high interest of different kinds of companies throughout the world, like Colliers or CBRE or Bureau Veritas, one of the world's leading certification bodies, who wanted to join our partner network to distribute our service. they are reflecting on one side for their clients' needs, but our revenue sharing model is also very attractive. That's why we call this business model 4-win, because besides the users and the building owners, our partners are winning as well, but the mission of Access4you is winning the most. And it's also a great honor that we were selected into the directory of the Valuable 500 as a global service provider. Valuable 500 is, for information, is an international organization of top 500 top brands like BBC, Microsoft, EY, Google, or Bank of England, MasterCard, or British Airways, and many, many others who work together to end disability exclusion.
And you mentioned Access4you Design. I believe you also got Access4you Score. Is that a new kind of variation or enhancements to your solution?
Yeah, this is a kind of answer that, as we see, ESG today is not only a sustainability framework or an attitude anymore. CSRD means every year reporting obligation for more and more companies. Reporting has to be based on real actions and valid data and must deal with all 3 territories of sustainability. And once we realize that our certification scheme fully fit into the social chapter, targeting one of the mentioned or the nominated action fields, disability and inclusion, and it is based on real data, we only had to evaluate the conversion of the result into numbers, into a scoring system, as Robert mentioned now before. And this allows us to compare the accessibility performance of a particular building vertically at different points of a timescale, or horizontally to compare the same performance of different buildings on the market in a certain moment, if you understand.
Yeah. And has the market been very receptive of that? Is that once again fulfilling a need because of this reporting requirement now, and the ability also to, as you say, to benchmark in terms of comparing buildings?
This is our aim. This is what we want to reach. As many data we have, this will be the base of we would like to deliver comparable evidences for in that manner that the market can compare buildings also based on the level of inclusivity. Yes.
So, Tamás, staying with you, we've obviously talked about this solution and what you're doing from the perspective, I think, from the property owners, the asset managers in that sense. But I'm also very interested to hear about that sense of how this has worked for the people actually using the real estate, whether that, as you say, it's theatres or offices or government buildings. What's your perception of how the users of real estate that you've been working with are reacting to this system and this solution?
Yeah, this is very important for us, since basically we are working for them from the beginning. We are getting very often letters or Facebook posts from thankful users, and many of them are offering even some kind of help as well, which is very nice. So basically, this is the best feedback for us, that we really deliver a proper answer for a global need. But as an official proof, last year we won the Social Innovation Award from the European Association of Service Providers for Persons with Disabilities. Each submitted practice was assessed for its innovativeness and the level of implementation of the UN CRPD. We are very proud on that. But it's clear for us that it takes years to have such a large database, which will really work as a listing app for the users. Today, it is rather important that the building owners, especially retailers or service providers, are communicating the accessibility information on their location, either directly on their website or with a QR code at the main entrance, which all leads the users to our platform. And once they are there, after that, it's easy for them, because website and the mobile app are very user-friendly. The structure and the rules are clear. They can filter the data on their personal need to leave out the unrelevant information from this huge mass of information. And the photos are helping also a lot. So as we see, they are very happy. The only need is that we have to grow and grow and grow.
And I suppose on that final growth point, Tamás, how can the RICS profession support you in this mission? Because clearly it's a very important piece of the way of placing people at the heart of real estate. What would be your message to RICS members about how we raise the profile of accessibility in all these different asset types? It's not just offices, obviously, it's these different kinds of real estate where people work, live and play.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you very much for this question. For us, no doubt that RICS is the most influential organization in the real estate sector, and not only in professional issues, but in ethical or moral questions as well. We believe that if RICS members understand the positive social impact of our activity and would support it with recommendations, it would accelerate the penetration of Access4you certificate and the growth of our database. But moreover, we are inviting RICS members to be our accredited partners, since our assessment methodology is very close to the classic valuation. It can be done at the same time during a site visit, and as a new service could generate an attractive additional revenue for their business as well. So welcome, RICS members.
Indeed.
Join us.
Indeed. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and a really sort of interesting and important conversation around, as I say, putting people at the heart of real estate and making sure it works for everyone. And I was particularly struck by the fact that, as you say, it's not just focusing on people who have disabilities of various degrees, but the fact that all of us at any time could be disadvantaged to some extent in terms of our mobility or other kind of abilities to use real estate. And it's a very broad impact here in terms of making sure that real estate is accessible for all. But for today, thanks ever so much for your time, and I look forward to catching up again in the future.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.